Good evening, everyone. I'm Gwen Robinson, the President of the Foreign Correspondents Club and Editor-at-Large of the Nikkei Asian Review. We're bringing you this event tonight live in the FCCT Clubhouse and also live streaming over our Facebook page. The video will be available afterwards. And also, for those watching on Facebook, we are taking questions. You can post questions as the panel is talking, and they will be answered at the end. And we will also take questions from the floor. So bear that in mind. And just to preface this panel by saying it's a particularly timely day for this panel discussion on what next for Thailand's tourism industry. It's July the 1st, and international flights have ostensibly resumed today to Thailand with some severe restrictions on which international visitors can arrive. We've also got the reopening after a long time of pubs and clubs, and also some huge hotel groups in Thailand that have been shut down are reopening, some of them today, including one that our panellist Michael Marshall of Minor Hotels represents. So there's some positive things about today, and there's a lot of very challenging aspects that our panellists are here to talk about tonight. So you know that we're here to talk about amazing Thailand, the perennial darling of Southeast Asia's tourism industry, and particularly the daunting challenge of rebuilding Thailand's crucial tourism sector in a world that is now marked by travel restrictions, fragile businesses, and wary travellers. We've just seen in the last few days this morass of new negotiations about green lanes and travel bubbles, strict social distancing requirements, different quarantine regimes, and of course always the underlying fear and warnings of a resurgence in COVID-19 infections. So there are some of the many issues that this, I hope this wide-ranging discussion will address. And I'd just like to run through our panellists who we are very fortunate to have with us tonight. To my immediate right is Kun Tanes Petsuwan, Deputy Governor for Marketing Communications of the Tourism Authority of Thailand. And next to him is Kun Varong Israsena, who is the Vice President Marketing of Bangkok Airways. Next to him is Janine Lee St. John, Editor-in-Chief of Travel and Leisure Southeast Asia. And next to her is Kun Marissa Sukasol Nuntik Bhakti, Vice President of the Thai Hotels Association, also Chairman of the Association's Environment Committee and Executive Vice President of Sukasol Hotels. And finally, Michael Marshall, Chief Commercial Officer of Minor Hotels. So we've got an excellent cross-section of the industry here, and I think you'll get some very good insights. So I'd like to kick off with Kun Tanes. Over to you. Tell us all about it, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My great pleasure to come back to the FCCT once again. As a matter of fact, the year of 2020 of this year should be a very good year of the Thai tourism industry, because we plan to celebrate the 60 years anniversaries of the Thai tourism industry. 60 years ago, Thailand received only 80,000 a year of the international tourists. And last year, we had very close to the 40 million. This year, we plan to celebrate with the Thai Airways National as well, because TAT has established on the 18th of March, while Thai Airways set up, opened the office, established the office on 1st of May the same year. We plan to celebrate the 60th anniversary, but the dream collapsed just collapsed after the Chinese New Year of this year. I just want to confess to everyone that for those working in the tourism industry, this seems to be the worst experience of everyone. I've been working for TET longer than 30 years. I've been dealing with the tsunami in the year 2004, if I'm right. SARS, MERS, bird flu, even the political issue in Thailand as well. But this time we passed it within through 3 or 4 months or half or 6 months. But this time I have to tell you that I'm not sure exactly what the tourism industry of Thailand will be go on which way. TAT dealing with this situation from the first month of this year, with the after Chinese New Year, when the government of China has banned the travel agent and don't allow Chinese people traveling to overseas country. Unlucky for Thailand, because you know that 10 million of Chinese share the biggest portion of the tourist arrival in this country. That is the first suffer. And then followed by the country shut down. And then followed by the sky has been shut down as well. So this make tourism industry of Thailand stay in a very critical condition. You probably read some article before. Let me share you once again that there are about 4.4 jobs generated in tourism industry. How about the future of the Thailand tourism industry? We have to deal with this is the totally change of everything of tourism industry. In terms of consumer behavior, we believe is going to be changed. In terms of hygiene measures, everything must be changed. Totally everything going to be changed. So I would say that from now on, whether when would be the last day of the COVID-19 fighting, everything will not be the same of tourism industry in Thailand. I can guarantee that you will never see again the number of the big coaches have parked in front of the Grand Palace or Sanam Luang or Chatuchak Market or anywhere else in this country. You will not see the picture of the tour guide holding the flag and lead the long line of the tourists walking around the tourist places. You have to, everything would be totally changed. So TAT, for TAT people like myself and my boss, everyone, we prepare ourselves to fight with of this scenario. So we still hope that by the end of this year, perhaps we can see the coming back of the short-haul market tourists. We are now working very closely with the related agency about the travel bubble. We are working with all private sectors sitting with me. We all know together very well. We work with everyone, TAT. As you know that TAT is just one of the marketing organization. We cannot go across to touch with the decision from the Ministry of Public Health, but we work very closely together. So if someone asks me when the tourists will coming back, I will tell you when the skies open, I'm sure tourists will coming back. But for the time being, what we are working very hard, we're working with the hotel airlines to boost up the domestic market. Actually, I myself and Tourism Authority have been talking quite many times that do not avoid to promote domestic market, because domestic market is the backbone of the tourism industry. Traveling with the country would be the key of success, but unfortunately that we allow the overseas market growing. I think 40 million revenue from the tourism, about share by international market about the 70%, share by Thai domestic market only 30%. This is the proportion that I like to share you this number. So I think what we plan to do now, we try to promote Thai people traveling into the country. So domestic would be very important. And I'd like to share to you that when I'm talking about domestic market, it's not only for the Thai people. I mean, the Thai residents, the expat people would be one of the key group that we would like to focus as well. When the international coming back, we have to do, in terms of marketing recovery plan, we have to focus a lot. I don't think that the long haul market, such as Europe or USA, would be coming back within this year. I'm not sure whether my friends who will begin with the European market would be support me or correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think that the American tourists would be coming back within this year as well, because the long haul market, they are all fighting with the COVID-19. And we, finger crossed, we wish that they're going to pass such a difficult time with them as well. For short haul market, I think Southeast Asia, surrounding Thailand would be the key area that we would like to focus. We see the good demand from China as well. We see a very good sign from Japan, from Korea, from Hong Kong, and from Taiwan, which that would be create the travel bubble. I think travel bubble is one of that I should mention at this session, that this is the first phase of the way of the government. Someone's asked me that what is the situation of the travel bubble. I would say that travel bubble is the first phase and reflect the sign of the government that they are ready to welcome the international coming back, but not this time. But of course, they will be allowed for the business person, investor, student, professors, or any tourists who aim to visit Thailand for receive a medical treatment. We allow for that segment first. And if it's work, and if it can be proved that we can prevent the spread of the COVID-19, of course, that would be further developed to the leisure market later on. So travel bubble will be the first phase of the role of Thailand, or Thailand, that we would be very happy to welcome the tourists back to the country. I just went to Koh Samui last weekend. It's not my holiday. It's a business trip. We had a seminar with the Samui Association. It was my first trip that I flew with Bangkok Airways to Koh Samui after the phase 4 has been released from the government. You have to prepare yourself a lot. At the first step that you enter to the airport, you need to use your smartphone to download the QR code, put your information, make sure that you are safe, your profile. That's first for the Koh Samui, the first app, the first required for Koh Samui, right? And then you have to download once again from the QR code from the airport authority as well. Quite strict condition. And when you arrive at the Samui airport, you're going to show information to the staff, and they're going to allow you go through to your hotels. I think this is something that I'm talking about this because I just to focus that from now on, in terms of consumer behavior, would be totally changed as well. Millennials people, that would be the first target that we would be focused, because millennials, they quite have a strong intention to travel in their life. We don't think that senior people would be our targeted anymore, because you know that senior people, is a high risk group in terms of to get the pandemic or the COVID-19. Short haul market is the first phase of the focus of TET in terms of marketing plan. Of course, during the crisis, TET also consider the opportunity of Thailand as well. You know that Thailand is performed quite well in terms of preventing the COVID-19. I have to put the credit to the Ministry of Public Health, the volunteer, the staff of the Ministry of Public Health, and we see a lot of opportunity of the wellness, of the medical tourism again, and I have been contacted quite many from the doctors who own the hospital, doctor who had a big land in Ayutthaya, and they are now preparing to develop to be like a wellness city, and good for the retired people and good for the tourists who plan to travel to the country to get the treatment, because performance of the Thailand in terms of the health is performs quite well. This is the opportunity. So my conclusion from the first round of my saying, this is the worst experience of TAT, of people who working in the tourism industry. We expect, if we're lucky enough, by the end of this year, perhaps we can get around only 10 million tourist arrival, which is flashback to 20 years ago in the year 1990. Thank you for Kun Im Tia for sharing me of this number. This is the current situation of Thailand, but we do hope, we still trust about our brand, Amazing Thailand. At least, while the world is still very panic, we have seen the news that a lot of protests in the many countries. We have the people panic, but in Thailand, we still calm. We have seen the picture of the monk in Koh Samui take a very good care for the Russian tourists who've been trapped in Koh Samui. The local people in PP Island take a very good care for the tourists who've been trapped in Koh PP because they cannot catch the flight back to their home for any reason. I think something of this picture, it represents the brand of Amazing Thailand. I think no choice. This is the, I don't want to use the act of God, but people who working in this industry, we have to have a good hope, optimistic. Of course, we pain today, and tomorrow we gain, and we will come back. This is the positioning of Amazing Thailand. And the good thing that we work very closely. Every time when Thailand has been hit with a disaster, we will come back. The good thing is about the collaboration. Hotel will be happy to offer the very privileges, the free room for the tourists. Airline would be very happy to give very good fare for anyone from around the world to flying back to Thailand. I think this is the strength of Thailand, and I'm sure that I cannot tell you when we will be coming back. But what I can tell you is now we already passed the lowest area of this situation. We passed the rock bottom already, and we're now going to stand again. This is my conclusion of my first round of session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kuntanes, for I guess it was a rather mixed view and short-term pessimism, but longer-term some hope there. Maybe we'll come back into some of the very interesting themes you raised. I'd actually just like to follow up on something you said. You mentioned the number of jobs in tourism.
Yes.
What was it again, please?
4.4 million jobs.
Right.
I mean, tourism industry create at least about 4 million jobs in this industry. I mean, I'm talking about restaurant, hotels, airline related, tour guide, transportation. So totally is around 4.4 million jobs.
Right. So that's well more than 10% of jobs in Thailand.
And revenue of the tourism industry, it share about 80% of the GDP of the country. So you can imagine how suffer we are at the moment.
80% or 18?
18%.
Yeah, 18.
18%.
Thank
1
you.
8.
Right. That's very useful figure because actually there's a lot of different estimates given of that. We've heard 10%, 12%, 15%, and now it's 18%.
Right.
Anyway, we will return to some of your points.
Okay.
But for right now, I think we will turn to Kun Varong about Bangkok Airways and to remind people, Bangkok Airways, in a way, is the perfect representative on this panel because in some ways, to many of us, you are a big domestic airline, but also you're a big international airline, or rather Asia's boutique airline, as you like to call yourself. So in fact, you've probably got perspectives on both, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Member of the press, good evening. What I'm going to tell you is I'd like to speak my mind of what has actually hit us, Bangkok Airways, and has really put us on hold, and how we try to rebound, and we are where we are at, and what we are foreseeing in the future. Some of you may have heard me spoke a little bit on part of connectors there, but I'm going to repeat some of the information. But I think it's vital. I'm trying to give some hope to the industry. Let me tell you. So let me tell you, Bangkok Airways. I'm sure that many of you have flown with Bangkok Airways. If you notice on the flight of Bangkok Airways, the demographic of the people on our planes, perhaps on our flight to Samui or on to our flight to Phuket, there's mixture, very good mix of nationalities on our aircraft: American, British, Russian, Indians, the Chinese, Japanese, Singaporean, and some local Thais. Well diversified, I would say, because we are working. Our strategy is one of the strategy that really propel us and really help us going through all these crises during the past decade. Is almost can say that it's the secret ingredient of Bangkok Airways that's put us here. Some years really high above the water, some years really just being able to breathe. But we survive with this strategy, working with all the airlines around the world, the incoming major airlines, bringing the passengers into Thailand, to Bangkok, to Chiang Mai, to Phuket, to Hanoi, to Rangoon, and we act as perhaps an air taxi, shuttle, crisscrossing people from region to region, from cities to cities within the regions. And we are doing quite well. If something happened to America, we refocus our marketing efforts to Europe. Something happened to Europe, we're refocusing to China. If the world is doing well, we're doing marketing all over the world to bring people onto our system. It seems to be working very well until beginning of this year. Well diversified? No, not any longer. Because the entire world turned dark. It's as gloomy as Kuntane said. I cannot shift left to right or north to south. We kept on flying for a few more months. The booking is still doing very well. The booking that shows on our system. People are still coming. But when the plane took off, no shows. They did not come. We took off empty. Empty and empty and empty. The no-shows go from 20%, 30%, 40%. At the point where we decided to halt our operation, the no-shows rates gone up to 80%, meaning the entire plane is full of people, and when upon check-in we only have 20 people flying with us. Some airlines kept on flying through the COVID pandemic situations during the past three months, but we decided to halt our operations. So on the 6th of April, after 52 years of operations, having our aircraft in the air, we put 40 of them on the ground. 40 aircraft on the ground. And imagine we are only a small, medium-sized airline. Look at how our peer partner would feel. TG, FD, Thai Lions, they have more aircraft than Bangkok Airways. Machines sitting there bleeding, leasing costs, maintaining costs we have to pay. Even though it's not flying, we have to pay for it. But we cannot do anything. It sits there. It's a dagger to our hearts, but I think it's happening to everyone. But it's airlines severely hit because of the high cost. We need to get the airlines going. So when do we start flying again? We like to start flying again, and I'd like to refocus my point to Koh Samui a little bit, because we are the main operator there. We have a lot of flights going to Samui. We are the operator of the Samui airport. Flying to Samui is not the decision of Bangkok Airways. It's a decision of the community. It's the communities who got together and decide when I should fly, we should fly. The community consists of the hotels, the restaurants, spas, the locals, the government offices, Tourism Authority of Thailand, of course, and Bangkok Airways. We actually sit together. There were different opinions. Some people said, 1st of May, let's fly. Some said, no, end of June. Let's don't bring any more COVID case into the islands. We carry a few. We carry 7 or 8 cases into Samui. We're being criticized quite a lot that we carried. But all the cases, sometimes we checked the people and the symptoms arise almost for 10 or 12 days later when they arrived in Samui. But to say the least, Samui itself is an island. It's pretty much contained. There's only 2 access going to Samui, either by ferry or by air. So the recovery from COVID case is quite fast. They've been COVID free for almost 80 days already. That's more than 3 months. So the people have a head start faster than other tourist cities within Thailand. So the community sits together and say, hey, let's somehow put Samui back into the tourism scene. They sit together with one common goal to how to put Samui back. Sit together and said, okay, they came to consensus saying that 15th of May, you can fly. Okay, endorsed by the governor of Surat Thani. Okay, then 15th it is. The 15th it is, we started flying. We brought in 2 ATRs. You flew with the small propellers, 7-seaters. We brought in 2 of them, but we can only take 35 people because we have to leave the other 35 empty to comply with the rule and regulation imposed by the Civil Aviation of Thailand. So 2 planes, 1 plane, 7-seaters, 35 passengers per flight. We start the engine and we start losing the money already. We start the engine and the money is going out of the pocket. But we have to start somewhere, like hotels, right? We have to start somewhere because we need to build trust. We need to tell the people that Bangkok Airways is back in the air, and trust takes time. So we know that we have to do it. And another point is that we have to tell the world that Samui is back in business. So 2 things. So we started flying. 2 flights became 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th one we added the Airbus 319, 138 seaters. So more flights meaning more passengers. So who are they? At the beginnings, when we start on the 15th, there were residents, of course, expats who's living, working in Thailand, and some business travelers. That's all. We don't even take the full 35 capacities, full capacity into Samui, in and out. But luckily, the Civil Aviation of Thailand allowed, 10 days ago, they allowed the airlines to take passenger as maximum capacity. So 138 we can take. Instead of half, now we are bringing in around 300, 350 people into Samui. The number, nothing to compare with what we used to carry to Samui pre-COVID. But
That's per day.
It's a start. It's a good start, 350. So more flight meaning more people. So who are they? Encouragingly, surprisingly, 55 to 60% now. It's rising from 55. I talked to Nick last week, it was 55. Now it's 60%. 60% is a tourist. Tourists are traveling, mostly Thais, some expats, families, kids, FITs, no groups. But it's almost the light that we're looking for. No? The light at the end of the tunnel is a small shining light at the end of the tunnel that is started shining. And it's heartwarming for people at Bangkok Airways, I'm sure for people in Samui and everyone. And this is not happening to Samui, it's happening to every part of Thailand. Samui may have a head start, so we are getting more and more people traveling. So the community has gone even more forward with the support of Khun Thanet and Tourism Authority of Thailand. This week they're going to have a Samui travel fair being held at the Central. You think about travel fair post-COVID, I think it's the first one in Thailand. So Samui travel fair will take place on the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th at the Central World. I don't know how it's going to turn out. There might not be a lot of people. There could be a lot of people. I don't know. But a start is very good. And a start is hope, and hope is what we need. And I say that hope is in the air. And I hope to go to on the 3rd of July and see quite a lot of people supporting. The hoteliers will be there. Ferries, 3 ferries will be there taking the passengers, tourists from Surathani. And of course, Bangkok Airways will be there to make sure that the price is right and for the Thai people and expats traveling to and from Samui. To end this, I'd like to add, local market is coming. With all this, I am only operating 7 aircraft. I have 32 more sitting on the ground. A local market, no matter how more often the Thai travels, will not be as big. And the wheel of the tourist industry, this wheel of fortune can only be turning with this size of tourists. And this size of tourists cannot come from local market. It has to come from international tourists. The one big $1 million question is when we can open our country. It's very difficult to say when, because we are doing so well. We've been doing so well so far. I think we should be glad that people are traveling comparing to other countries. But how are we going to propel this momentum forward? And that's the key, because I don't think we can make another mistake. No mistake can be made. We have only one chance, and we have to make it right. To ask me what the future will bring, I don't really know. We are correcting according to symptoms. It's a bit clearer than 8 weeks ago, but it's still very unclear in the future. I think everyone is feeling the same. That's my first session. I'd like to end it this way. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Khun Varong. Also a very mixed view. But can I just quickly ask, today was supposed to be the day that international flights resume. Bangkok Airways, as you noted, has international routes. Are you not flying any international routes yet?
The door is open. The news saying that the door is open, but
the door's not open enough, I presume, for Bangkok.
It's very small opening with all the rules and regulations. It's very difficult. So no, not yet.
Yeah. So you can't take a plane to Yangon where you can't land anyway.
I would love to fly to Phnom Penh. I would love to go to the Maldives. But at the moment, let's support Thailand. Let's travel within Thailand first, I would say.
And those 32 planes are staying on the tarmac for now. Right.
32. And hopefully a few more will be flying very soon.
Okay, and maybe you'd like to say something about Phuket later on, but Koh Samui seems to be in your sides. So we'll now turn to Khun Marissa Sukusol Nuntipakti, Vice President of Thai Hotels Association. You also wear several hats Kun Marissa, not just representing Thai hotels, but also the Environment Committee, where your focus is sustainability, and also as Executive Vice President of Sukasol Hotels, where we're very fortunate tonight to have in the audience Kun Kamala, the best-known personality of Sukasol Hotels too.
The world's only singing hotelier.
Yes, the world's only singing hotelier. Yeah, maybe another night we can get her to sing a song. Anyway, so Kun Marissa, you are going to address,
Yes.
I think, a number of issues related to...
a couple of issues, yes. And by the way, I speak at a lot of events, and my mother has never seen me speak, only when I come to FCCT.
Well, good,
yes.
thank you.
Woo! Yes. So it's like, being a child again, waiting for mom to arrive, So I hope I don't get too nervous. And unlike many other people in this world, I prefer to sing rather than speak. Just giving you a heads up. Anyways, what? I can sing, yeah.
Maybe that could be your encore.
My encore, yes. Anyway, as Kun Varong touched on a really good point, you said we only have one chance. And I think that is why our government is taking longer than we hope to open up the country to flights, because we only have one chance. If we let in travelers and one contracts the virus, can you believe if we have a second surge and we have to go through all this again? It's just not worthwhile at all. So we cannot move. So I think that's why the government is taking longer than we all hope. And the longer I think about it, the travel bubble is very complicated, because it's a government to government bilateral agreement, and not only do the governments have to agree, but all the agencies within that government and the private sectors within the two countries have to agree. So I'm already resigned myself to the fact that we will not see recovery at all, maybe just a little bit, this year, and a full recovery in 2000, I'm thinking Thai years, 2023, yeah, maybe 2023, but it's going to take a very long time. So since I'm wearing two hats, can I just introduce you to my group of hotels, my mom's group of hotels? She's the founder of our hotels. We've been around like almost 50 years. I just gave away maybe her age, but that doesn't matter, because she looks great no matter what. Anyway, so we have the Sukasol in downtown Bangkok, the Siam on the river. Everybody knows that hotel. And our GM is right here, Kunik. If you want to book a room, we have staycation packages.
Enough. Okay.
We don't know when we're going to open yet. We have the Bay View in downtown Pattaya on the beach, Siam Bay Shore, which is our oldest property in Pattaya, in South Pattaya, and the Wave Hotel, which is like a Miami-inspired Art Deco boutique right in the middle of the beachfront of Pattaya. And of all the hotels, only the Wave Hotel is opened because it only has like 21 rooms, and the operational cost is quite low. So with the Thai and expat travelers helping us for the time being, supporting us, we are able to keep it running. I don't know, are we losing money, Mom? No, we're not losing money, no. Not at Wave.
As long as revenue more than expense, I'm happy.
Yes, as long as revenue is more than expense, but that will be a while for the larger hotels. I think Michael can touch on that later. So this is our group of hotels, and now I'm going to talk on behalf of the Thai Hotels Association. I think I have to push, which one?
Maybe this one.
Yeah, can you go? I'll just introduce you, to the Hotels Association. So we have 970 hotel members. This is just a picture with a quote, that's all it is. I put it up last month with the hope that there will be a new day, but now I'm I don't know when that day will come, possibly next year. So, 970 hotels. We have 10 chapters all across Thailand. 10 chapters all across Thailand. We have 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 10 chapt in room numbers, we have 150,000 plus room numbers that belonging to our members. All of Miners hotels are members of Thai Hotels Association. So thank you so much. But a lot of the properties are SMEs across the country. 80% of Thai hotels are SMEs, so they're local operators. You know, when I speak, I typically speak representing the country, not just you know, the key tourist destinations or bigger hotels. All right, so I think it's only fair to THA that I tell you about what we've been discussing with the government since COVID outbreak. I remember the end of May, the Prime Minister came to the THA's offices. He actually came. I wish I had a picture, but I didn't have time. And he was very, very diligent. He took down notes and he addressed every point. And some of the points that were recommended to him have borne fruition. And also I have to applaud Governor Yuttasak of TAT. In the beginning of the outbreak, he took all of the tourism stakeholders, you know, to meet all the financial institutions, to voice to them our need for assistance, and that, as you know, has been implemented by the government. The biggest result that born out of our discussions was the Social Security cash assistance for hotel employees, which was not available unless you were a hotel that was forced closed. So that helped out a lot of hotels and also a lot of employees. Imagine yourself a smaller hotel with less cash flow. How are you going to keep employees on board, right? And we also proposed tax breaks for domestic travel, which has been implemented. The government just announced 100% tax deduction for companies organizing meetings domestically. And now the government just launched the travel stimulus package for Thai people to travel within the country. Other governments, such as Singapore and Hong Kong, which are much smaller, give the cash directly to hotels to help pay for staff. But in Thailand, I understand we are a big country. And so this hopefully will help a lot of hotels out in the interim. But it still is very small because domestic travel is just 36% of the entire revenue, tourism revenue for Thailand. I'll just go over some of them, maybe not in detail, but we did mention to the Prime Minister that, you know, if we want to bring back travel, we cannot have the 14-day quarantine. It's just a super hard sell, and nobody's going to come. And I think, I think you would agree. And the OTA domination. I mean, it's the way of the future. OTA is short for online travel agencies, but they charge hotels up to 30 to 40%. When you're a larger hotel chain, maybe you pay less. But when you're just a little hotel somewhere, just trying to sell online for the first time, you need to be exposed online. You have to pay up to 40%, and these companies are not paying tax, right, in Thailand, right? So these were the things we discussed, and supply chain management as well, controlling the number of new hotels and hotels that are illegally operated, as well as a centralized data for hotels, such as occupancy levels, which we have none in Thailand. Like, we don't know, we're just cherry picking. The 4-star and 5-star hotels share occupancy, but not the rest. All right, so I think Kun Michael Marshall of Minor will, I'm humbled, I'm afraid to voice my opinion regarding what will happen with hotels in the future, but hygiene and cleanliness, I humbly present this slide. Hygiene and cleanliness will be a priority. You see that in Thailand, people are not so diligent, as you can observe in this room. Nobody's wearing masks, but never mind, we are not shaking hands. But where I live in Ari, there is no social distancing. But when you are a hotel and you are marketing to overseas clients, you have to have these measures in place, to build confidence. They have to trust that you are hygienic. And thank you to TAT, we have the SHA certification, which is the safety and hygiene certification available to be used as a tool to promote our our hotels. Flexible pricing, customization. In the future, as people migrate from group tours to FIT bookings, they're going to have specific needs. So hotels have to customize to cater to the different needs of the different niche markets, such as tea kettles for Chinese, things like that, and maybe Indian breakfast for Indian travelers, things like that. They will probably be more fragmented. The services of a hotel have to be more fragmented. Thus, an agile workforce will be necessary, meaning that how do you, Kun Big told me that in your company you use the word right sizing strategy, meaning that with occupancy dropping below 50%, maybe not even reaching 20 or 30% this year, how are you going to reorganize your resources, manpower, to deliver efficiency, to deliver the hospitality that people, travelers so love about Thailand, and to improve productivity and keep costs down as well. Hybrid events, we don't know. People are so used to meetings online, the normal remote meetings and working from home is normalized now. So that's one area where I just don't know what's going to happen for the future. And I put the word sustainable meetings there because that's a trend in sustainability. I see it from our hotels, Sukoso hotels. All of our hotels are certified green, and we offer green meetings. And we see multinational companies choosing to stay at our hotels because we offer this service. This is where it begins. It's with the corporations, sustainability. And of course, touchless technology and sensor faucets, mobile bookings, and paperless check-ins, things like that have to be accelerated, as well as digital capabilities for smaller hotels, so that now that they have to market to Thais directly, they have a better chance of lowering commission costs to OTAs by doing it themselves digitally. And the new buzzword in hoteling is health and wellness and medical and things like that. I'm sure you'll talk about later. And for independent hotels, eco-labeling is the in thing. You have to, because you need third-party certification, verification to build trust for your customers. So hopefully, we'll see more hotels being certified sustainable. All right. Oops, is that it? That's it. Do you want me to talk about sustainability now? I thought I had more.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'll touch on sustainability.
Well, very briefly. And
All
then
right.
you can come back to it later.
Okay, briefly. So, moving forward, tourism's selling point will not be promoting or price. It will be how well we protect our resources and how we protect the destinations. There's just so much. I'll go through the important one, which is clean air. I believe that would be a big challenge for Thailand, is the PM 2.5 particles in the air that might deter people from traveling to the country. Traveler safety, we talk about cleanliness and hygiene, but I think, boat transport, taxi transport, the fact that tourists are not taken for granted or taken advantage of, these things have to be addressed as well. And what I'm really seeing now is that a surge in eco-travelers at our hotels. At the Sukoso, we have green rooms, and the Bayshore. Green rooms, which means that they are specifically designed for energy efficiency and things like that. And guests specifically choose those rooms to stay in. Before, guests used to feel that we were saving costs by not washing sheets every day, but nowadays they feel good. They want to participate in our sustainability measures. And what I'm seeing that's very important that I'd like to talk about is the fact that Booking.com did a survey of their bookers in 18 countries, and 76% of them said that they would like to stay in a green hotel, but didn't know how to. And so market access is a new thing, and even these big companies like Expedia, Booking, they're trying to find ways of showcasing green hotels to the bookers. So that's something that's a trend in sustainability moving forward for hotels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kun Marissa, for an excellent, wide-ranging presentation. You covered a lot of ground there. Hopefully we can come back to some of that. But next I'll turn over to Michael of Minor Hotels, and congratulations on reopening most of your hotels today. You can tell us how you see it. I think you've got a bit of a presentation there. A few slides, okay. Carry on. You might want to remind people of some of your main brands.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. First of all, as Gwen mentioned, and also our colleagues from TAT and Bangkok Airways mentioned, we were faced with an unbelievable, situation that developed really, from February to March, where we actually had to close 95% of our hotels. And we have over 550 hotels globally now. Which was, unbelievable. I've not seen anything like it in 30 years since I started in the industry. But I think it's good, and we've got some green shoots that we can say that most of our hotels now in Thailand, by the end of this weekend, will be open, and that includes 2 Anantara hotels in Bangkok. So the Anantara Siam, the Anantara Riverside. We're open up in Phuket, so 2 Anantaras in Phuket, and also Koh Samui. So we're just opening 1st of July, our 3 properties in Koh Samui. So we're looking forward to getting more of those flights to Koh Samui, and definitely the bigger planes as well to get more people into Koh Samui. But anyway, let me just give you a quick. So we are now a global company. We started off, as you know, in Thailand. Our head office is here in Bangkok and will always remain so. But we've now grown really across the globe with 8 brands. The 2 brands we have in Thailand are Anantara, as you know, and Avani. As we mentioned already, domestic tourism is what we need to focus on now. We definitely want to get these regional bubbles open, and we know there's a lot of work going on between the different governments to get that done. We hope it comes soon because, as we said earlier, the Thailand tourism domestic market will only keep us going to a certain percentage. The good news is we've increased it a lot over the past 5 years, but it's still about 10%. But what we've seen is some new trends, which is people buying vouchers, in advance. So we've been selling value-added vouchers where we're adding 30% extra to a voucher that you can spend in any of our hotels. So there is a pent-up demand of people looking, we've all been locked up for so long, for 3 or 4 months in our houses. We want to go, we want to travel. So people have been buying vouchers, and they've been buying staycation vouchers that they can spend as long as the validity of the voucher is 12 or 18 months, more like 18 months. Another area we see, Thailand's always been, an amazing place to have a wedding if you're coming as a foreigner. Or even, as a Thai, we've got lots of amazing locations all around Thailand, from north to south, where you can have a wedding. There's actually a lot of pent-up demand because there's many people out there who haven't been able to get married, who are desperate to get married. I don't know why, but no, I'm only joking. But we've seen the number of wedding requests going up dramatically over the past weeks. Now, the good news as well is that you can have a wedding up to 150 people, I think, nearly, soon maybe to be 200, because Thai weddings are usually very big. A lot of them, as we know, can be up to 500 or more. If you're in Khon Kaen, then it can be, 1,000 or 1,500. But there's been a trend recently of micro weddings of up to 50 people. So I think we've got an opportunity in the future for weddings and meetings. As Marissa mentioned, Thailand is the perfect destination for meetings. At the moment, the meetings market is very slow. People are worried about having a meeting, so we've focused on all the health and hygiene factors, and we've got all our hotels certified with the, I think it's a very good program with TAT, which actually the international market and agents are recognizing, the SHA program. So social distancing on meetings. So big meetings I think are going to take a while, but we're seeing for Hua Hin, since we've opened up the Anantara and Avani in Hua Hin, some small meetings of up to sort of 10 people have started to happen, which is good. I think Thailand has the most amazing experiences, as we all know, any of us who've lived here for a while. We have the elephant camp up in Anantara, Golden Triangle, but there are many experiences, you know, whether those are water experiences or country experiences in Thailand that we need to push, and we need to get people to stay in destinations longer. I think the days of people going around, you know, hitting 5 or 6 locations or 4 or 5 countries is going to change. And, you know, that idea of, oh, I got the T-shirt in Chiang Mai, and then I went to Phuket, then I went to Bangkok, and then I went back up to, or down to Krabi, then I think that's an opportunity for us to really and let people enjoy the destinations that we have all around Thailand. I have a video here, but I'm not sure if we can play it. Can we play it?
Quintum. It might be difficult.
Do we? How do I play?
Can you do a video?
Maybe not. Doesn't matter because we may be running out of time.
Yeah. Maybe it's better to.
Maybe it's. Don't worry about it. I can. The so we have in the Anantara the elephant camp. These bubbles here is a new experience where you can sleep with the elephants. So you can sleep in these bubbles, and so I think these are things that, yeah, sleep in a bubble. You can have dinner on the terrace here with the elephants. So I think these are the sort of unique things we need to focus on. We're also put a lot of packages together. We have M-Jets, which Bill is his favourite toy. So we put a lot of packages together for people who want that private, as we were talking, bring the luxury clients back as quickly as possible. And we've got a new boat, the Loy River, on the River Song. On the some of you may have already seen it, which is a beautiful overnight cruise now going up and down the river. Again, this is another thing that we think is another big opportunity. And then wellness. You know, wellness is the fastest growing part of our industry, actually, and particularly medical wellness. You know, we're all wanting to live longer, you know, live healthier, you know, look at all these different kind of preventative, if you like, medical and wellness programs. So we've partnered with Verita, which is a Singaporean based group. And we're opening one in Anantara Layan in Phuket this year, at Anantara Siam, and also Anantara Riverside. And then we've got 2 other. We see there's, you know, different areas in the wellness area. So there's a big Indian group, VLCC. We're having one of their wellness spa and wellness setups at the Avani in the Avani Plus in Hua Hin. And then the Regis is going to work with one of the most famous Swiss wellness groups, which is the Clinique La Prairie. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here. And then social media and digital. During this whole period, we've been really keeping contact with all our customers. You know, sending out the experiential videos. Video and video content is the key now. And I think on the future, when you look at all the PR that we need to do for Thailand, safety and hygiene, we have the Anantara Stay with the Peace of Mind program for the Anantaras, which has really increased our hygiene levels. We're working with Ecolab and Diverse A on the hygiene products, and we're also using UV lamps, which is new to me. So you put a UV lamp in the bedroom and in the bathroom, and you leave it for 1 hour and it completely sanitizes the room. So this is something very new. But I think back to nature, conservation, we talked about sustainability, and we're getting a lot more people looking for privacy. So, which is great when you look at, selling, more luxury product or more higher room rates, if you like, for us. We're selling villas with pools before we sell the rooms now, even to the domestic market. So, that's encouraging.
Right.
And I think last but not least, this whole area of conservation and having a real holistic approach to conservation in the future is something we can look at. And then everybody has apps, including now we've got the domestic tourism program, which we are supporting, which is a great initiative, which you need the Kruntai Bank app to access that. But we're using apps now so that when our guests check in, you can do online check-in. You don't have to use a pen or anything. And you can order, your room service through Line or WeChat or whatever, and also look at the menus, etc. So I think this is another trend that we're going to see more of.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. And I think really both you and Kun Marissa have highlighted what I think a lot of us have been reading lately, which is in sort of restarting and possibly reconstructing tourism in Thailand. There is some thought to shifting or at least reforming some of these areas, environmental, sustainable, etc., and some of the aspects you mentioned. So I think over to Janine as the new editor-in-chief of Travel and Leisure Southeast Asia, which is one of the, I'd say, frontline travel media, and you must have been focusing on this a lot, but clearly there's some people thinking that this is a great opportunity for Thailand to actually perhaps reform or enhance its offerings to get back tourists or appeal to new markets, more domestic, whatever. But anyway, over to you. You have the floor.
Thanks. Sorry I'm last, you guys. I'll try to keep it brief. Actually, what Marissa and Michael said touches on a lot of what I was going to talk about for what the future of luxury is. But let me just first set up, as Gwen said, Travel and Leisure Southeast Asia is this region's edition of the American travel magazine brand, Travel and Leisure. And we're distributed in the 12 countries of Southeast Asia with a mission to cover Asia Pacific broadly. So that's like the stands to the South Pacific. And our readership is high-income, frequent travelers, nearly 60% of whom stay in 4- and 5-star hotels on pleasure trips for pleasure, and 80% for business. So the last year we actually did a reader survey. 30% of the respondents, and that's region-wide, said that they spent $1,000 US on domestic vacations. But 90% said they spent at least that much internationally. 68% spent $3,000 or more. 33% spent $5,000, and 15% spent $10,000 or more on international holidays. All of which is to say that despite the fact that we're dealing with an economic downturn and everyone's really stressed about money, while domestic tourism is the only viable option, there's a lot of money to be captured in that in the luxury market, and there's more once the borders open. So I'm going to speak kind of from the consumer perspective and about where luxury travel is headed overall based on the trend lines pre-COVID, but also based on talking to people who travel frequently, talking to hoteliers and other journalists in the region. But let me just note a couple things up top. Hotels are totally all taking hygiene completely seriously. Like my inbox is evidence of that. It's just press release after press release of how clean everyone is, which is great. But the thing that's more important, in my opinion, is that a lot of the measures that they're taking, for example, in-room check-in for everyone, which are things that would have only been available to high spenders in the past, are actually making service in general more luxurious. And I think that's a win, right, for travelers. And kind of to answer your question, Marissa, about events. Event planners are telling hotels that they don't think video conferences are going to fully take over, replacing in real life events in the long term, mid short term, mid long term. But what they're going to be looking for is more diversity of space. So outside and inside, place where people can mill about. And a third learning is kind of what Michael was talking about in social media. All of this activity with this captive global audience has given people lots of opportunities to build their brands and being present, like on your phones and everyone's feeds, and showing people things that they didn't even know they cared about, both like about your pillars, your eco pillars, your wellness pillars, and also about the destination. So in general, that's quite good for the region. So from TNL's perspective, we'd say the future pillars of travel, especially luxury, will be intimate, meaningful, and mindful. And by intimate, I mean like castaway and secluded, the polar opposite, right, of staying in our homes, but also staycations across town, somewhere fresh, somewhere like the Siam. I also mean like traveling alone, because solo traveling was really picking up pre-COVID, especially among women travelers, but also private groups and villas and people renting out like whole resorts or whole islands. The zeitgeist term for this is togethering, and it means you go with your whole family, or maybe like all your friends you guys have been like Zooming with during quarantine, but just a bunch of people you want to huddle and hang out with together somewhere awesome. And that's a trend that's been gathering steam for years. But if you toss in health and contagion issues and the nesting house party vibe that everybody's kind of gotten used to during quarantine, and frankly, the fact that the very wealthy have the opportunity to fly private and skirt these mass travel restrictions, then you've got like a pretty good lucrative segment that will also, we think, take in the middle classes. So when we talk about meaningful travel, we think about the fact that everyone's just been sitting around daydreaming with time to figure out what they want to do and exactly what they want to do. And again, it goes back to having less disposable income, or being more guarded, right? Because who knows what is going to happen. Hopefully, we will come out of this without going back into quarantine, but until the economy recovers, people are going to, when they make a trip, want to make the trip count. So that doesn't mean only taking bucket list vacations, but it does mean following this trajectory that we've seen over the past few years, which is experience-based travel. So that includes wellness, which everyone says is going to be a major driver of traffic, right? As people think about it as like a pillar of luxury that's just as important as thread count and pool suites. This overlaps with medical tourism, which TAT wants to push more, and we super agree with. There's so much exciting going on in wellness. We could probably just talk about that all night. But whether it's Bumrungrad, which is my happy place, or like a spa resort with cutting edge science, or
Can you elaborate?
I just love the hotel, the hospital, the hotel. See, exactly.
Off topic.
I know. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. Whether it's Bumrungrad or like a spa resort with cutting edge science, or 1,000-year-old traditional healing, or actually, hopefully, in my opinion, both. People are willing to pay for that. Another thing that this includes is food pilgrimages, city, urban, often the countryside, to see farmers and producers, or the Royal Project, which is like has so much great stuff going on. Trying to see celebrity chefs, of which we have a bazillion in this town, eating in their kitchens, or maybe they'll take you on tours or take you to their supply chain. I've been trying to get Soren to do that with me. And like everyone knows, right? The food is the thing. People love many things about Thai culture, but the food is the thing. And there's also this international dining scene, right? That is both more authentic to its places of origin and better priced than elsewhere in the region. So this is really important. This is why getting the culinary market back on track post-COVID was such a major deal. And like, I think we can all agree that we hope they rebound with the domestic market as soon as possible, because dining is a major factor in people's decisions to come here. The third category, broadly, meaningfulness, is nature immersion, animals, volunteering at wildlife retreats, trekking, forest bathing, road trips, learning to dive or surf, or like it could just be an organized retreat, or it could be a self journey. It's just being in a resort like full of trees. It really, what matters is feeling like you're getting something out of your trip, which brings me to mindfulness. Because that actually both works in this context, in the sense of being both purposeful and traveling with intent for some sort of personal growth, and also in the sense of being aware of our footprints, as discussed. I think everybody in this time during COVID had time to stop and think like what we're doing to the planet. And it gave us in the industry, admittedly a bit more self-righteously, some ammunition to tut-tut about over-tourism, but hopefully it also spurred people to think really about our impacts, right, on the environment and the communities around us. The word reset, right, coming out of COVID is this eye-roll-inducing term. I think, did I just roll my eyes now? But we actually really have a chance to do that now. You don't have to volunteer on vacation, though that is super fun sometimes. But if you pick hotels and places and journeys and travel agents who are conscientious, that's a really big step. Like just places that make tangible impacts, both publicly and also behind the scenes. Because every property, like worth its salt now, has banned plastic straws, is easing out single-use plastics, and the good beach resorts have turtle sanctuaries and coral nurseries, and that's great, but like that should be the baseline. The next question is, what are you doing that's innovative to get your customers involved? How much of like your love, how much love are you giving, meaning like financial assistance actually, to the communities where your hotel is based or your travel agency is based? How much are you helping empower them to support themselves? And this is something that you can look at from every step in the supply chain, from who you make your tour guides to who you stock your which chocolate you stock your minibar with. And personally, back of house, right? That's not sexy, but I want to make it that way. I'm really like psyched about wastewater treatment and like compost bathrooms and permaculture gardens, because like that's the way that new properties are going to be able to change things. Obviously, smaller boutiques have more flexibility than international or big brands, but you know, people are able to change, and newer ones coming online are able to start green. If you make that investment up front, it pays off both financially, but also in publicity, which people want to travel to be green, right? So obviously Thailand does have a way to go on the eco front, but actually at the top of that heap, there are some major champions in sustainability right here based in Bangkok. So that's looking up. And I guess to finish, in Bangkok, actually I think the city has a lot to look forward to. A bunch of iconic hotels have opened or renovated in the past couple of years, and maybe you guys know like 4 5-star plus hotels are opening this year, COVID willing. And 2x2, right? Like along the river and here on the park, they're gonna create new hubs for eating and drinking and dining. And that's just, like, I know hotels probably would prefer I didn't lump them together, but what a great collective way for the city to market the brand that's Bangkok, like to entice people with deep pockets to come back, to flaunt like these top-notch brands that we already have and that are coming. So just to finish, this country, like Thailand, in addition to Japan, has been, for our readers, the favorite, the most visited, and the most relevant country for several years, according to our surveys. The country has great wellness. It's full of private villas, the food, right? So I believe once we can safely reopen the borders, we'll be primely positioned, but hopefully that'll be soon.
Right. Well, thanks, Jean, for a great assessment of some of the ideas going forward. I am going to shortly hand over to my colleague Vincent Vatican, but actually, before I hand over to the floor, I'd just like to get in one question to, I think this is primarily for Kun Tanis and Kun Varong, which is that all of these ideas and things you've talked about and things Michael and Kun Marissa have talked about going forward, ideas about, taking it upscale, more wellness, more, innovative ideas. But right now, the industry's in crisis. You're trying to rebuild, and actually the only market you've really got is domestic. And even though international travel resumed today, we know for sure that international tourists cannot get in. I'd like to know when you think they actually will, Kuntanes, but also what the strategy really can be in the next, let's say realistically, 6 months. You've all said something like you don't expect international tourists to be here before the end of the year. That means Thailand has to get through the next 6 months trying to revive its tourism industry. We've heard about the subsidies to encourage domestic tourism, but realistically, maybe you could say something about that, and then we'll turn over to questions. I can see a line up there. Sorry, Vincent, we'll just ask this one question first.
Can I add something to that question?
Yeah, the mic's not on, I think. Sorry?
Mic on now? So can I just add something to that question?
Can you speak up, please?
Could I add something to that question? Can you hear me? There's been a lot of talk this week about the countries in the EU that will be the first 15 to 20 countries that will be authorized to travel to the EU. Thailand is on every one of those leaked lists. Would you like to say anything? And those agreements are always reciprocal. So as a lead on to Gwen's question, do you know anything about that, or does anybody on the panel know anything about that?
Okay, did you catch that? So it's a two-part question really, but the first part is about building the domestic and relying on domestic travel for the foreseeable future, and this issue that Vincent raised about the EU putting Thailand, practically every country in the EU has put Thailand on its list.
You mean
Safe travel.
the Thai travel? You mean domestic? I'm sorry, I couldn't catch which point that you like to.
No, the issue about international travel.
International travel.
Well,
Yes.
since we're talking about also when international travel is going to pick up.
When? Yeah.
But given that Thailand is on all of these authorized countries list, safe countries, travel bubble countries with the EU, and those agreements are always reciprocal, do you know anything? Do you know anything about Thailand reciprocating?
Mm-hmm.
Reciprocating as in letting
EU citizens into the.
I think the broad question is, despite all of what we've heard tonight, in fact, the rules at the moment still preclude foreign tourists, and we don't know when international tourists can arrive. It seems like business visas for Japanese and a few other nationalities are okay. So I think that it's a two-part question really about the reliance on domestic tourists and also the likelihood of international tourists being allowed to arrive, and Vincent making the point that the EU countries in the last couple of days have all come out adding Thailand to their safe countries lists.
I don't think I would be the right person to answer your question because it's very complicated. I would say that working as the representative from the tourism board, of course, I really need the government to relax and allow international tourists to fly in Thailand as soon as possible. Because if you catch up with the number of the report of the cases of the COVID-19 in Thailand, I think they perform quite well. And we see a huge negative impact to the economy of the country, particularly in the tourism industry. I mentioned a little bit at the beginning of my saying, travel bubble would be one of the initiative that we are trying to start to inform the world that Thailand is ready to welcome the people back. But as you know, that it's very difficult to say because everything would be under the consideration of the center of the COVID-19 administration, which is chaired by the Prime Minister, and of course the leading doctor professors of the leading hospital in Thailand has been working as the advisor to the Prime Minister. But I can tell you that from among the private sectors in the tourism industry and people who are working in the tourism industry, I think we are quite more than ready to welcome people back to the country. So in terms of the returning of international tourists, to be honest, I really don't know how to share my idea, but we are waiting, and we quite believe that we still see a strong demand of the tourists from international market would be coming back to the country.
Right.
I'm quite impressed. One thing that I'd like to mention, why we are waiting for the coming back, of course, that beyond our authority. I think Thai private sectors, such as the Thai Hotel Association, airlines, they perform quite well. In terms of supply side of tourism industry, I think they perform quite well. And I think this is a very good opportunity of the country is a good opportunity of Thailand to reform the tourism infrastructure of the country. TAT, we are ready to move Thai tourism industry shift from the mode of quantity to the quality. And I say that I don't expect 40 millions a year of tourist arrival to the country anymore. I think 20, 25, 30, perhaps maybe good enough. And why we are work at home, lock down ourselves at home, you can notice that the nature is resuming. That's a beautiful word that I like very much. Why we are work from home, the nature is working from heart. So you can see that the beautiful places can be seen all over the country. So I don't know whether I can share my perspective to you or not, but I think Thai tourism industry, we're quite ready to welcome the tourists back, and I'm sure we're
tomorrow?
whenever, if the sky is open, if Bangkok Airways start to fly, I'm sure that we see the rebound of the international tourists, and this time we will make it good than the past. So yes, we are waiting for the consideration and permit from the higher level.
Thank you.
That's what I can say to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And
Could I just say to the viewers out there that there are hundreds of people watching us. If anybody does have questions, we are monitoring the questions, so that if anybody has any questions, they can certainly ask.
Over Facebook. Thank you. Please identify yourself and.
Thank you, Gwen. Good evening, panelists. My name is Imtiaz Maqbul. I'm the Executive Editor of Travel Impact Newswire. A quick question to the three private sector people on the panel, and one question specifically to Khun Thanet. To the private sector, could you discuss a little bit about the financial impact of this in terms of the refunds, the cancellations, the contracts that had to be observed and taken care of? I mean, I know you all were in the hock for a lot of bookings and reservations that had to be refunded. How did you all actually handle that? As well as, of course, the key critical impact on the staff. How was that taken care of? How many were roughly laid off? What kind of packages were they put on? Are they being rehired? And also some of the issues, if you can raise it, of the banks and other loans. Specifically for Khun Varong, flying those 42 airplanes is not an inexpensive operation. I'm sure you owe the aircraft manufacturers a lot of money. Have they been able to be flexible in terms of you paying some of that money back? And one question specifically to Kun Thanet. Kun Thanet, what do you see to be the future of marketing in this? Will the travel marts and others, how do you see Thailand's presence in future at big shows like the ITB and the Arabian Travel Mart? And what about your own travel shows, domestic travel shows? How do you see some of that being restructured as you go forward? Thank you.
Okay, that's a multi-layered question. Shall we start with, it was addressed to the private sector people. Kun Vorong, do you want to kick off? And maybe your others?
Okay, I stress on the issue of the refund first. I'm not so sure how many airlines are providing refunds or what other private sector providing refund, but it's almost a branding of Bangkok Airways since the start of COVID. Our president said, let's return every single baht to our passengers because they need the money. They need that money back in their wallet because, and we started refunding to every passengers during the COVID affected period of 3 months. More than 10,000 bookings being full refund. We committed to full refund. We processing more than 50% already. We still have backlogs of around a few thousands that we are still refunding the money to the passengers. Those who book directly with us get the money quicker. Those who book through the agents, we have to refund through the agents, and the agent has to refund to the passengers, and that takes more time because not every agent are working at full times. But that's our commitment, and we are refunding every single baht to our passengers, and that's a commitment from Bangkok Airways. It's costing us hundreds of millions, but and that's the order from the president that we committed to our passengers, and hopefully they remember us, and during this perhaps post-COVID they will choose Bangkok Airways because when they want to rely on someone, and Bangkok Airways is there for them. That's our hope. We didn't plan that it was going to be our branding, but
right.
I think it's turning out to be.
And layoffs and suspensions of staff, I think, was the other question.
Is trying not to. We have golden handshake coming out. Is happy both sides. If the employee is happy, the employee shakes hand, and we will have to reduce our staff. Readjusting. Using this time to reorganize ourselves. What's already efficient, we're making it more efficient. What is not very efficient, we will use this time to correct ourselves. But yes, there'll be some people leaving Bangkok Airways, but we're using this moment to readjust, make us leaner, and make us lean enough to be ready to come back when the opportunity opening up, and we'll come back strong, and hopefully even have the strength to gain back the strength back to our old self, and perhaps even stronger.
Right. Let's hope so, inshallah. Michael, Marissa, you want to comment on this issue of private sector, how it's affected your staffing, and also this question about travel fares?
Sure. Okay. Regarding the refunds, cancellations, yes, we got a big increase in cancellations coming through in, really from March, especially when Europe, was really affected by COVID. I mean, the first lot of cancellations came from China and from Asia. What we did was we tried to handle it as much as we could on a case-by-case basis. So we looked to try and retain as many of the bookings as we could by giving people up to 2 years to use their booking if they prepaid. So that was pretty successful. In fact, out of the, if you look at all the cancellations we had, about 25% of them we were able to postpone, which, you know, I think by extending the validity period of what they had booked for up to 2 years has helped. But we've had to make a lot of refunds, that's for sure, and we want to make sure that we keep the goodwill for the future. So we've been paying those back through the past few months. As I said earlier, we had to close our hotels. So the first steps we did to protect ourselves was we took salary cuts. So that's right across the board. Everybody's taken salary reductions over this whole period. We try to minimise, what we've had to, in terms of sort of right sizing, as Melissa talked about. And we hope, if like we said, as Gwen said, if we can, we're pushing as much as we can on the domestic market to reopen the hotels and get everybody back to work. But that will only deliver a certain level of business to us. So we need to get the bubbles working and the international travel coming back in, so that we can make sure that we can get everybody back to work.
Right. How many hotels do you actually have in Thailand out of, what did you say, 550?
We've got 28 in Thailand.
28 out of how many?
530.
530.
It's very, very important to us, Thailand. And most of our fully owned hotels are here in Thailand as well.
Okay. And Marissa, do you have something to say
I just
about
wanna talk,
the staff,
I guess on behalf
refunds?
of the staff, when we went to speak with representatives of the Ministry of Labor, they said that the most important thing is to engage and to talk and to come into an understanding. It's easier for smaller hotels to do that. A lot of them have just let the staff lay off the staff so they can get more than 62% of their salary. If you're laid off, you get 70% for 200 days, and maybe rehire them back. So there's no blanket approach. Every hotel is treating this in a different way. Yeah, but mostly, definitely salary cuts for sure. Yeah.
And refunds.
And refunds, I don't know any. Maybe you can, Nick. We don't have it. We don't have that issue in our hotels. I know that in the south, the TUI. Do you know about TUI, the largest German travel agency? Owing hotels in Thailand a combined value of 2 billion or so, and that they have from what I was told is they're only paying hotels that are signing on for future contracts with them, and that some hotels in the south are banding together to sue. So it's a global calamity for travel right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. As is mentioned from the
Sorry,
beginning,
what was the question?
the travel show.
Oh, travel shows.
I think nothing would be the same. At least the flagship project of TAT, the B2B travel show, what we call is Thailand Travel Mart, has been transformed to online already. What we call from Thailand Travel Mart going to be changed to be Thailand Virtual Mart, which we have now over 300 buyers around the world has been registered already. It's quite a success. But at the same time, yes.
How many?
Over 300 buyers from around the world already registered through our system already. It reflects that Amazing Thailand is still popular among the buyers. But anyway, the leading travel show in this world this year has been cancelled. Starting from the ITB Berlin, followed by the Arabian Travel Mart in Dubai. What we are keep eyes open about the World Travel Market in London, because as I have checked through our office in London, they said it's still being confirmed that the travel mart would be operate as usual. So let's see it's going to be if, I don't know whether the situation of COVID-19 in UK And I don't know how many Thai sailors would be there to travel to London during that time or not. I don't know. I don't. Difficult to
14-day
say.
quarantine. Are you going to travel and then
And
sit
when you
there
fly back to
14
Thailand, you
days
have to
in
do a self-quarantine for 14
in order
days
to
as
go
well.
to a
So
2-day travel show? That's the
complicated.
question.
You need a month.
You need a month, right? And then you'll get quarantined when you come back
Yes, of course.
for a 2-day travel show.
So this is the latest situation that I shared to you. But for Thailand, actually the Thailand Travel Mart would be operated every year during the June time. But this time we have been transformed to Thailand Virtual Mart already. And we see very good feedback from the buyer around the world.
Right. Okay, thank you. Richard, identify yourself and ask away.
Okay, my name is Richard Barrow. My question is mainly for Kuntanet and TAT. You said earlier that expats are like key to the success of the domestic tourism market in Thailand. So my question really is, why aren't they included in the incentives to travel at this moment in time like the Thai citizens are? And my related question is, what is your opinion of the two-price system in Thailand where foreigners are charged a lot more than Thai people? Speaking personally, I would visit national parks more often if I could pay 40 baht every time instead of 400 baht. But because it's 400 baht, I don't want to go, particularly if it's just a small waterfall. So what's your opinion of that?
Okay.
Right. Can I just add to that? Because unfortunately, I did grill poor Kuntanes about this issue before the panel. And he did say there is a separate program which you will talk about. But also, I would say that I think not just TAT, but a lot of even Thai Chana, this app that you have to use to even walk into a mall.
Yes.
Is all in Thais, right? So
Right.
there are a lot of expatriates living here, and as you know, spend money. So over to you. Sorry, that's not a very happy question, but
The two stimulus packages issued by Cabinet, I think yesterday, it's some technical problem that's been invested and subsidized by the governmental money. So in some legally area which I cannot touch much, they allow only for the Thai people. That is some the condition of the regulation how to use the budget to subsidize for the traveling for the Thai people. They allow for the Thai people only. But anyway, I like to say like this: TAT always consider the expat people as the partial of the domestic market. Once we plan to promote domestic market, we never forget the expat people. And particularly, I'm not sure exactly about the how many number exactly of expat living in the country, but I believe that over 100,000. So just why we are trying to launch the stimulus packages, as Richard you was asking me, TAT start to negotiate with the leading OTA. I can give you a name, Agoda or Booking.com, I think. We are plan to produce a very privileged and special package for the expat people to avoid from the complication.
in English.
Yeah, of course, in English. To avoid the complication from the money that invested, subsidized by the governmental area. So I think that would be good for the expat people to traveling around the country. I also send I think I don't want to use the complaint, but I also question the bus authority of Thailand that they said they will allow ticket for sale for Thai people only, but not for sale for the foreigners. I don't understand why, because airlines, the train, BTS, MRT, they allow the foreigners or expat people traveling in this country, but why the bus authority of Thailand is have issue a very, I think very difficult to understand and not make sense in terms of perception of the passengers. I already sent that to the bus authority already about this. It's quite complicated about this. This is my first question. So I'm sure. Please wait that. Let's see that how the package is going to look like issued by the leading OTA in this country. This is the first question. Second question, the two prices. Okay, I would say I speak very loud. I'm not happy about this, and I'm unsatisfied every time I heard about the story that why the foreigner would be charged very very big gap between the Thai fare andฝรั่งfare. I always complain as well. So I don't think from my perspective, personally view, and the TAT people, I don't think that this is the make sense regulation that you're going to charge the fare to the foreigners quite expensive, quite high. I think 3 or 4 times than the Thai people. And the expat people, as we consider as the Thai resident, they pay tax. Many of expats married with the Thai people as well. Right. So we better treat them as equal. So I think COVID-19 this time probably would be a very good time that the TAT perspective would be get a very good response from the related organization. And one thing you should know that we cannot do anything much, just voice and receive the feedback from the expat and the tourists and feed to the directly to the government. Yeah. Last week, I think TAT governor walked to the Ministry of the Resources Ministry because they own the national park all over the country. And sometimes the fare that would be charged, the different fare charge would be occur in the national park. Thai fare would be very cheap, whileฝรั่งfare would be very expensive. So I heard that my governor has brought this issue to discuss with the Ministry of the Resources already. Yeah. So I'm sure that, as I mentioned from the beginning, that this is a very good time of Thailand to reform the tourism industry and structure. While we are waiting for the coming back of tourism, the tourists, we have to work in the structure in the supply side. Right. What we did wrong, make it right this time. So I'm sure that when everything come back, when we move from the mode of quantity to the quality, I'm sure that would be going better than the old day.
Thank you. That's a very encouraging insight. I think one point that we did make earlier is that there's also a difference between foreigners and foreigners. There's foreigners who are expatriates in Thailand who actually pay tax, just like Thais. So those who live with work permits are paying tax, those who've retired, etc. So that's possibly a different category to the tourists. I guess it's slightly complicated to calibrate different programs for different, depending on if you have a work permit, if you've paid tax, etc. But also, I think some of the applications like Thai Chana being all in Thai is difficult for some of the...
Shall I mention a little bit about such a very difficult time of the COVID period? I'm sure many of you know that actually TAT, we working for the country as the marketing organization. We don't have any authority of law to enforce anything. The law will be under Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Natural Resources, whatever. But during this time, because TAT cannot do anything in terms of promoting, because in terms of the global sentiment, people is now panic. I think it's very stupid if TAT would be issued the spot commercial to come to Thailand, visit to Thailand, whatever. I don't think people around the world is not in the mood of traveling. So we shift our job description from marketer, now working as the coordinator, working very closely with the supply side, make sure that tourism industry would be reformed. This is the best time of this country to reform the tourism industry, which is share 18% for the GDP of the country. So this is the best time to make it right.
Right. Thank you very much.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, sure.
We were talking about this before, and from the private sector, I know the question was about the government, but on the private sector side, every deal I've seen for domestic travel has been specifically for Thai people and foreign residents of Thailand. Like, people indicate that. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they all 100% do, but the ones that I've seen that come through my inbox do. So there is some private sector, like, picking up where the government hasn't yet.
Right. Thanks for pointing that out. We have a question there. Please identify yourself.
Clive Dangington, hotelier here in Bangkok. Kun Marissa, you said that you're quite hopeful of easing the 14-day quarantine, and also that we have to be careful that we don't get a second wave in the future. Kun Vorong, you were also saying that when can we reopen, but it's perhaps more of a case of how we could reopen. And since the 25th of June, Iceland is offering COVID-19 testing to all international tourists upon arrival, with results within 24 hours. This allows full and free travel within that country. I'm just wondering what proactive steps have the Thailand Hotel Association and the TAT taken to recommend to various government departments that Thailand implement similar testing in order to allow the tourism sector to reopen?
Very good point.
We mentioned it directly to the Prime Minister, actually, when he came. And I'm just thinking, if TAT can't do the recommendation, then how can we, you know? And the funny thing is that the Minister of Tourism is in the same party as the Minister of Health and the Minister of Transport. They're all in the same party, and maybe just, you know, maybe the party leader is just, you know, making all the, I don't know. So I'm sure that information does get through to the government. And 2 days ago, if you read the paper, the Minister of Tourism recommended 5 islands, right? Opening 5 islands up to travel. And that's a good idea. I think that's a good start, because you can quarantine on an island, a smaller island, you know. And I think that it frustrates me not being told what's going on behind the scenes. But if Kuntanet doesn't know, then there's no way that I'll ever know what the discussions are. But I think it's possible to open. You know, a lot of Chinese go to Chiang Mai. You could definitely open a corridor between Chiang Mai and certain places in China, and you know, and do
But you
it
mean
destination by
install COVID
destination.
testing, with
Yes,
COVID testing.
with COVID testing
On
on
the spot.
departure and on arrival, and then tracking. But it's easy to say, but probably a lot harder to implement, to do.
I cannot give you much about details of this, but what I'm going to say is going to be my personally opinion. I think it has been put, as Kun Marissa said, I remember the day that the Excellency Prime Minister visited the team of the Thai Hotel Association. You proposed to him already about what you are saying. And if you read the paper about the travel bubble idea, I think the fit to fly measures or the rapid test at the Suvarnabhumi Airport, Don Mueang Airport, has been put in the scheme of the travel bubbles already. What we are waiting is when that would be effective, when it's going to be effective. This is the point. So I'm sure that government there aware and acknowledge already about you proposed, Kun Marissa proposed, TAT proposed. But one thing I'd like to share to you that there is quite big number of the Thai people who stay overseas is waiting to coming back. Quite big number. So I guess that they're trying to hold the concept of travel bubble or what you propose to minister, because they're trying to control a big amount of Thai people who with a long queue to travel into country. Because if of course they have to treat is related to politics a little bit. It's going to be the drama issue, because they have to treat the Thai people first, and then we allow for the tourists coming in. So I'm sure this is the point that the government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Public Health is dealing with the Thai people who plan to evacuate and traveling back to their home.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I think we'll just take finally 2 more questions. I know you've been waiting a little while, so please identify yourself.
I'm Lekha Shankar, the Asian Age newspaper, India. Just a quick addition
Sorry, we
to
can't hear you.
Iceland.
Say again.
He mentioned Iceland, but I wanted to say that Greece is doing the same thing. You have to be COVID-free when you come, but if you get COVID in Greece, then you're allowed 2 weeks quarantine at the expense of the Greek government. So I guess many people may hope that they get the virus when they go to Greece. You know? I mean, that's something good that Thailand can think of. No, I had some questions because there's so much written about this tourism
Sorry, can
thing.
you just keep it to 1 or 2 because we're just running over time
okay.
now.
I wanted to ask about this travel bubble. Now, this relates to COVID-free countries. Does it relate to neighboring countries, ASEAN countries? You know, and you mentioned that you didn't want the vulnerable people. So does it target any particular age group, you know, a money factor when you talk of travel bubble, since you want to attract deep pockets? And I also wanted to know where India figured here, because they fit into every market, whether it's wedding, whether it's incentive, whether it's tourism. Of course, they're going through a bad patch now, but I'm sure they're somewhere in this draft travel bubble. So I just wanted you to give details about this travel bubble in the sense of who, what kind of people, which countries, and when.
Okay.
Now we are focused about the 3 or 4 countries in the short haul in the Asian region. We're talking with some city in China, some state, some city, not the whole country from China. Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, they all perform quite well in terms of the COVID-19 prevention. And in Southeast Asia, we are considering about the Vietnam is one of the countries that perform quite well in terms of prevention. This is the list of the country that I still remember now that we are working for that.
What about Myanmar, Cambodia, and Australia, New Zealand?
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
totally.
of course, yes. That as well. New Zealand, Australia, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos as well. So neighboring country in Southeast Asia would be the key area that we're going to be focusing.
Any particular age group or money bracket?
Pardon me? Age group or
we focus
bracket.
to the business person first.
With business visas, right?
Yes, that's
so
right.
not tourists.
Not tourists.
That's
not
the
tourists,
problem.
Not tourists.
Yeah.
The one thing that the development of travel bubble is moving quite slow. Please think about this. If it has been executed, activate, I mean, the tourists, not tourists, the people, the overseas, the international tourists will be traveling to country without 14 days quarantine, while Thai people anywhere in the world that traveling Thailand need to be quarantined for 14 days.
Right.
This is a very sensitive issue that why the government need to make it very carefully.
Right.
Please understand them.
Okay. Thank you. And a final question,
So we have a question
from Vincent. Yeah.
online from Jennifer Gamble.
From where, sorry?
From Jennifer Gamble, who's a long-term expat here in Thailand, who's asking, is it realistic to imagine that Thailand can completely transform itself into a 100% luxury destination? What about lower levels of shops and hotels and tours that cater to so many ordinary tourists? This segment of visitors never wanted to or could stay in these upmarket places. Are they no longer welcome? Anybody like to take the question? Maybe a broader question as well. The focus on the luxury market, does it help the entire industry? What are the medium to long-term effects of that?
Yeah, can I just add to that? I think that's actually a good point, the focus on the luxury market, but given what you said, Kun Marissa, that how many % of THA's members are SMEs? Like, small.
80% of all of hotels in
80%,
Thailand
so-
are small operators, so
Yeah,
you need
so-
FITs at every level.
And is the focus on
Yes.
luxury a bit misplaced?
Yes, you
I
need
don't know.
FITs, and what you really need is not the high spenders, but the quality travelers who are responsible travelers. I mean, quality means that they visit many locations, they travel ethically, they contribute to communities,
So
things
you
like
mean
that.
medium level and small
Yes,
hotels.
yes,
Not
all levels.
luxury.
Not specifically luxury.
But they're not mutually exclusive, right? Like SMEs, in terms of what people are, what travelers are looking for. It could be luxury. Some people look for both luxury and small, but it's the quality.
That's right. It's the quality of the traveler that we need.
And not the mass tourism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, I think this issue of luxury versus, like small or medium, ordinary little hotels is actually a very big question, because obviously, as you said, the jobs numbers alone, 4.4 million, did you say? 4.4 million jobs. If you're saying 80% of the hotel sector is like
Small,
SMEs,
yes.
you're talking about a lot of jobs.
A lot of jobs.
In the medium to low, not luxury. We're not talking about Aman and
No.
others.
Yes. Tourism-related jobs figures, job loss figures are almost 1 million. So there are about 990,000.
So that would be
people out of jobs.
25%, right? If you're talking about 4.4 million jobs in tourism, with 1 million job losses,
Yeah.
just hotels
Yes.
alone.
Yes.
But the knock-on effects must be huge in tourism. What are we talking about in job losses generally in tourism sector, do you think?
Job loss a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
More than 1 million?
I think more than 1 million. Yes, more than 1 million.
Right. So the World
When
Bank
we're
report...
when we're talking about the tourism industry, it's not only hotel, it's not the airline. Imagine people who working in the restaurant, in the bar, people who working as the tour guide, souvenir shops around the country. And recently, and I mean last year, we promote a lot about the secondary provinces. People now that create their own homestay. Local food, we promote gastronomy. People invest a lot about to operate their own local restaurant. They're all lost, they're all gone.
That's right. So I think the World Bank just released its Thailand Economic Monitor report yesterday, and they based some of the estimates on the NESDB estimate of job losses. We're talking about 8.4 million jobs lost by the end of this year, which is very serious. And obviously, if tourism is 15-18% of the economy, you're talking about a lot of job losses in tourism. So, what to do?
Yeah. So, I mean, long weekends already announced from the government. So please go out traveling around the country, and waiting for the special packages from TAT for the expat like yourself.
Well, we look forward to that, actually. And also a second long weekend, I gather, announced with Songkran holidays. So we've got 2 4-day weekends, and we look forward to TOT enhancing the English language offerings for Farang in Thailand to avail themselves. So I think on that happy note, I'd like to thank our panelists who've been very patient, very insightful. It's been a great panel. Thank you very much, everybody. And let's support Thai tourism.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.